Hello everyone! In this video, I will explain in detail how to create a landscape in Unreal Engine 5. This video is also part of my architectural visualization course in Unreal, so you can see how our training goes. Let's go! I created an empty level. There's nothing here, no lighting, nothing at all, just completely empty. I created a new level to show you. And it's not necessary to create a new one. If you've already imported some geometry and it's floating in the air, you can add the landscape underneath and move it as well. Now I will talk about this. We have several ways to create a landscape. To create it, we go here to selection mode, the second, 1, shift 2, hotkey, or here the second. Item is landscape, we select it. A green grid appears, it demonstrates by default these parameters that are entered here, which give us this kind of landscape. It is flat, it is divided into squares so that Unreal loads them over time. As we approach the edge, it loads the next ones, meaning this is all done for optimization purposes. We don't think about it. And look, what are we interested in? Here we have the overall resolution, which is stated as 505 x 505 pixels. In our project, these 505 x 505 pixels will be converted into 505 x 505 meters. This landscape is 505 x 505 meters. Just so you understand, if you want to create something smaller there, you can specify it there. 200 by 200 or 190, because it must have a step to divide these squares. So if you need more, then 250, 190. No, I mean, how much? 300 or 253. That is, with these specific steps, it allows for dividing the landscape. The size of the landscape doesn't play a significant role in terms of system load because anyway, as we know, if we stand here, there will be a building in front of us, or architecture, or some kind of wall. If we don't see a part of the landscape, Unreal won't render it. Therefore, there's no need to worry too much about having a very large landscape, just so you understand what these numbers mean. By default, it was 505 by 505. Let's create one like that. And the first method is to create a flat version like this of the landscape. We will return to it shortly. There's another way to create a landscape if you have a height map. Height maps are created in programs like World Creator. Just a second, I'll show you. This is what the World Creator program looks like. It is specifically designed to create landscapes. That is, landscapes are modeled in it using nodes. I'm not very familiar with it. I've tried playing around with it, but it works with geodata, locations. It can pull heights from Google, from SketchUp, and correctly create beautiful height maps. I haven't used it much, so I can't say exactly how to do it, but there are quite a few tutorials online on how to do it correctly. And after that, we get a black and white height map as the output. It looks like this. I'll put it here for myself, okay? This is how it looks. That is, it seems to us that it's just gray, but in fact, there's quite a lot of information hidden because there are many shades of gray here. And if we use this map, I have two. They look simple, you could say, like light gray color. And look, we do import from file. This is the second method. We will return to the first method of creating this kind of flat one shortly. First, I will talk about this one, which is created using a height map. We select import from file. And here we have the height map file. And here we click. And I created Rocky Land on the desktop. I click open. And we see that Unreal has already divided it. It has created certain heights. This is a very primitive, how to call it, primitive visualization. That is, when we click import now, everything will look much nicer. That is, this is so we can roughly understand the elevation changes, how the landscape with elevations generally looks. And we see that it will be for us 2 by 2 kilometers there, 2 kilometers, 160 meters. Because that's how the texture of this size was created in World Creator. We press import It thinks for 2 seconds and that's it. We have our landscape 2 by 2 kilometers. And currently there is no lighting. Let's quickly add some light. Sun. I'll add skylight. I'll add, please, sky atmosphere, so we have it well in fog. Okay, I'll add that too. There, like that. Now look. As we see, we don't see the edges because it's still 2 kilometers. But let me add something else. So those squares don't confuse us. I'll assign it to the landscape. Material. Material is assigned to the landscape a little differently. I'll create a simple gray material. I'll remove the specular. Press. Close. Here. And this is how dragging onto the landscape doesn't work. You must definitely select the landscape, and here we will have the landscape material. We can drag it here. Material. Creating the material is no different, meaning there are no special checkboxes that need to be set. Here we applied a gray material, and as you can indeed very clearly see, this intricate height map has created quite a detailed landscape with variations. And I always strongly recommend when working with landscapes to have either your architecture imported into the project, or if it's not ready yet and you want to prepare something, well, you can simply go into the modeling tools and create, for example, a box the size of your house, or a person, for instance, 50 by 50 by 180. That is a person, and you understand that here it is. This is a person, and this is them, relative to the landscape. So the dimensions are very, very large. But we are not worried about that because we know that Unreal works well with landscapes, and regarding size, we are not concerned. So this is one of the options. And after that, we can edit it like any other landscape. That is, sculpting means drawing mountains. Now we will return to that. I just wanted to show how using these height maps to create your landscape. Also, besides World Creator, there is another program called Gaia, like this. Both of them have similar functionality, and they are the best on the market. I just know this from those who are involved with games. What's with them? Most of them create all the landscapes in games for movies, and so on. They work very well with real geodata. You can just enter the numbers there. Well, in general, you can watch tutorials here, and they don't seem complicated. They look easy to master. So, here, we have an option for creating a landscape using a height map. Now, I will create a new level, empty. Open it, and show return we create the landscape again. And now, not from file, but rather create new, we will create an empty one like this. Only this time, let's make it smaller, 505 by 505. And that's it, we press create. And basically the same thing was created. I will now add lighting again. I will incorporate a directional light and a skylight into the scene. And additionally, I plan to include an atmospheric effect to enhance the overall visual experience. Done. I'll also assign a gray material. It's easier to work with. And I will return to tell you about everything that we have here. Look, we have created the landscape. It is flat, meaning it's just a plane, a very large plane, 500 by 500 meters. After we created it, many possibilities appeared for us. To work, sculpt, and modify it. All those same possibilities exist in the one that we created using a height map. It's just that our starting point is different. There, we already have some landscape that appeared with the help of a height map, while here we just have a blank white sheet. Here. And also, when creating, I forgot to tell you that there is a very important checkbox. Let me Click to create a new one. Look. This checkbox might not be checked by default. Make sure to check Enable Edit Layers, which means to enable editing layers. Now I will explain what this is. Yes. Let's go. Back to sculpting. What are layers? Let me start with that. We have a zero layer, simply called a layer. This is our plane. That is the landscape we created ourselves. We start sculpting something, drew something, tried something. I will now explain what we are doing, just to clarify what it is. So we made some hills. And to go back, we need to press Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. We might have broken something, but we can create. There's a plus sign here. We make another layer. It asks which layer this is, whether it's a regular layer or a layer with splines. I'll talk about splines a little later because they are responsible for roads. We choose that this is a regular edit layer. We selected it, and a second one appeared, which can be renamed. I don't know, depending on what you will be doing. For example, I will write that this is mountains. And I start sculpting mountains, sculpting, pressing. I made something, well, broke it, and I want to go back. And to avoid pressing Ctrl Z, we can simply turn off this layer. That is, by clicking on the eye, we just turn it off, and we have, again, a clean slate. Or another option, create another layer on top again. Name it something. Continue. Again, sculpt. Don't like it. To avoid going back to the beginning, we just remove that layer. What remains is what's underneath. So these are like editing layers, as in Photoshop. And we have a non-destructive way of working. So we are working. All right. Have we reached a point where we like this? Then we create a new layer and try, if we're not sure if it will suit us, what we want to try. To avoid breaking what we've already done, we create another layer. We edit on it. We like it. Okay. To save it like this, we create a new layer and again, try something new on it if we need to try or fix something. And this way, we save our work and can return to it. Plus, besides the fact that we can either hide the layer or delete it entirely, we can choose how strongly it affects. So right now, our mountains are at 1, meaning 100%, but we can set it to 0.5, and our mountain will simply reduce everything we've done to 50%. It's also cool, you can even set it to 0.1, and only a very light trace will remain. So these are layers. It's a very convenient feature. It appeared relatively recently and is very useful in terms of such non-destructive work where we can always go back, and it's like a way to save during work. Now I'll explain more specifically. I've already drawn here what these buttons of ours do and how we sculpt our landscape. To start, once again, always set yourself some kind of object for scale, whether it's your architecture or mini-poem people like. We press add feature or content pack. We select this. Third person game, press add. It quickly adds, and after that, once we've added it, we have a kind of standard Unreal character that we extract. And let's say through it, we can already see some scale. So we placed it, and we also modeled a mountain here. This means we understand that the size of a person is like this, and we need to build some kind of landscape for ourselves. Well, or of course with architecture, it's easier because we can already sculpt around it. Let's return to sculpting or select the landscape and go through everything. I'll move back. So first, the usual sculpting. There is a size. Here is the brush size. We increase or decrease the size of our brush. And by pressing and holding the left button, our mountain will grow. With the Shift key held down, pressing will create a pit. Similarly, we can also adjust the pressure strength. Right now it is set to 0.3. We can set it to a very low value and it will press out gradually. The fact that it presses out in such lines is not a problem. We can always smooth it out later. This is because there aren't many pixels on the landscape, but it all gets smoothed out, so we don't worry about it. And if we of course set the strength to 1, then I press lightly, and it will immediately shoot up. And the same with shift in the other direction. This is basic sculpting. And we can also choose how much fall off, that is how sharp this line is. The extrusion. If our fall off, here it is set to 0.5. If set to 0, it will be like this. As you can see, well, it can't make a perfect line because it has to extrude something. At 1, it will try to make the line as sharp as possible. And if the fall off is set to 1, it will be as soft as possible. Shape. Now, let's delete all of this. I will create a new one to demonstrate further. Now, here we have types of brushes, and we are interested in the first standard one. This is the one I showed you. It formulates like this. The second one is an alpha brush. That's what it's called. What does an alpha brush mean? We can insert a texture. Here's a texture by default. Here it has these black and white squares. And how does it look when we draw? Let me reduce the strength. And if I start drawing with those squares, do you see what happens? It follows the mouse, meaning when I move the mouse, the texture rotates. This can be turned off. Auto rotate, if we turn it off, it will always stay in one place. And if we press, our texture will grow. And I have prepared once, where is it? Environment brushes. Look, this is how it looks, such a colorful texture. But actually it is just in Photoshop on different channels. Just such a thing, you can draw such clouds in Photoshop. I just clicked around and packed 3 different channels, 3 different click textures. So on the red channel, there's such a black and white texture. On the green one like this, and on the blue one, a bit different. And 2 such textures, meaning we have 6. It turned out that we have 6 different textures. And I take one of them and choose which channel, whether red, green, or blue. And that changes the drawing itself. I turn on auto rotate, and with such a thing, it's very easy to break up. Exactly that even kind of landscape, so that it is not so perfectly even. We don't need mountains, but a perfectly flat plane just doesn't exist in real life. So we increase our brush. And look, if we start moving it, it already creates not such perfectly even surfaces, but it already looks more like some kind of landscape. But we'll reduce the strength, and in doing so, we can simply break up our even, perfectly flat surfaces into something like this, which will look nice, especially when we plant it with some greenery, grass, and so on. And so, by choosing different channels, we have several of them, meaning we can break it up like this, drive through, and add irregularities to the landscape itself, so it already looks more natural. This is our first sculpting. The second is cleaning. That is, as we drive, we wipe everything we've done clean. We drive around and wipe everything we've done. Well, and the size and strength too. If we set it to 1, it will simply erase everything we've done. You see, it levels it to 0. Well, it's convenient too. It just erases everything. This is so you don't erase the entire layer, but if you need to erase a part, then erase wipes it. Next is smooth. I'll take the first one. I'll take a larger brush size. The maximum is 8192, but you can enter 3000 so it will be larger. I'll draw something like mountains. Or even, let's just do it like this. As I showed you, I'll make a very sharp one. Such a very sharp mountain. And this smooth, it will smooth out this whole thing. Let me increase it. And when I start drawing with it, you see, it starts to smooth out. That is, to avoid such sharp angles, it adds more natural forms even to those sharp angles. So that's how our smooth works. Flatten, a very necessary thing for architecture. Let me finish drawing and add a bit more height and show what flatten. And we've created some kind of landscape. Oh, with a lot of mountains. There are different heights and we need to level it, make some flat surface. So flatten is really cool for this. I'll just reduce its size. Look, it will take a point. We have a cross on the screen. It will take this point. When I click with the mouse, it will take this point as 0. And everywhere we move the mouse, it will level this area to the height of the point it initially took. Look, this is how it looks. Here I take this point, I click the left mouse button, and now as I move, it just creates a terrace and levels everything to that height. Wherever I move, we made a terrace for the house. Later, of course, we can smooth everything else out, but we leveled it completely to 0. That height. For example, we need a second terrace step, a bit lower, right here. Clicked, moved around again, made ourselves a second step. This. And the rest we can take this same smoothie and smooth it out, make it more natural. Or woven. You see, it levels. And the third? Not the third, but erosion, the last one. It adds a kind of, well, let's call it a more natural effect. When we apply it, it creates such as if folds, erosion, that's what it's called, folds. That is, all the surfaces become not so even. With that erosion, you can also smooth nicely those sharp corners after weaving. Now, the next thing is not the next, but we have a ramp. Well, I rarely use it, but I'll tell you, maybe it'll be a surprise for you. We click once with the mouse, and this icon appears. Click a second time, and this thing appears. Now we select this icon and raise it to the desired height. And after we click the Add Ramp button on the left, all it does is create a ramp, an incline like this. And then you work with it just like with a regular sculpt, whether to come in or add something. So it's simply the creation of a smooth, perfect ramp. And it also has certain parameters. This is the width. We can narrow it down. And side follow is how the sides, these side slopes, how smoothly they will descend. So we made the central ramp itself thin and these slopes wide. After we click Add Ramp, let's reset or let's delete everything and make the ramp again. Click, clicks, lift, Add Ramp, and you see it stretched from this point to this one in width. A smooth descent down. This is the ramp. I don't know. I haven't used it yet, but there is such a interesting thing. Okay, let me delete it. Oops, I deleted the entire landscape. Next, we have hydro and erosion. This is one, well, you could say not exactly the same thing, but they are similar in their function. So we made some kind of thing like this. And hydro, it will also in its own way create something like erosion, but with the help of water, like how it washes away in the mountains. Rivers carve out such flows, especially in Iceland. It is visible. This hydro brush tries to create similar effects on the slopes. We call it gorges, and noise is like that. Just noise, very strong, a great force of the brush. That is, if we take it, it simply creates such an unevenness, something similar to the brush we made. It can also break your landscape with a light touch. The rest we don't use there anymore. For games and programming, we're not interested in that. That's how it looks in. And this is all about creating landscapes. That's it. And now the roads. The roads are not in this menu. The roads are in Manage. Here, where it is created, where we can add another landscape. There can be several of them. Here are the splines. Click on the spline. And look, for splines, you need to create another layer, a separate one. Click, and here there is a specific type of layer for splines. What is it for? I'll show you now. Select it, and now we have added splines. You can rename them as roads or whatever you like, and look how we draw. We press Ctrl, click, and the first point appears of our spline. When we click a second time, also with Ctrl, the second point is added, and we have already created a road segment. Click again, and with Ctrl, and the third point is made. And so with Ctrl, we click and create. Later, we can select and move the points. Those, all of ours, just like in 3D Max. With splines, those. Without any problems. We created, let's say, a road. And here we have our own settings appearing. We have essentially two segments. Basically, there are two segments and there are points. The points look like this. When we zoom in, here we have a point and there are also segments. Between the points, these are called segments. There is a control point and there is a segment. When we click on the segments, what is highlighted is green. And when we select control points, we get the ability to edit our road. And we can specify here is half width, meaning half of the width. In this case, it is set to 10 meters, and that's the half. So if our road is a normal paved one, let's say 6 meters wide, we should write 300 here. Then it will be of normal width road. Well, a 6 meter one is implied. There you go. And look, there is an option if you are making, for example, some path in the forest, not paved. You can select one point and adjust it separately. That is, you can increase the width at this point, and further on, it will be narrower at the other points. This can also be done. Well, maybe someone will find it useful. Just so you know, we created this spline, and now look, if we selected this spline when creating a layer for splines, after we take this point, we split the point and start moving it, just lift it up. The landscape will automatically adjust the ground beneath it. And if we want to lower it, it will even dig out the ground, creating a pit. If we hadn't selected that layer for splines, it would just, the road would go underground, and the landscape wouldn't react at all. Well, of course you've done this, and then with simple sculpting you can, well, add a new layer that is not related to the road, reduce and start. You can already paint over as you need. Don't pay attention to those black squares, they will disappear. So, the road has created some base for you, and you can paint over and sculpt as you need. Now, let's return to the splines. I'll still pull the road up here. There. And now I'll show how to add exactly the geometry. What did I do? There are entire collections available for sale on the marketplace, or rather on Fab, with roads, various signs, various barriers, and so on. There's a lot of all that. In 3D Max, I simply created this piece of road. It's a 6 meter plane, which I divided into 6 segments. I imported it into Unreal and later deleted it on the KMP. But now I wanted you to see it here more easily, to see how simple it is. And after I pulled it back from Unreal, it broke it, because as a mesh, it further broke it into these triangles. These were just squares, 6 squares. And on the sides, I just extruded small curves and added chamfer to them. This is one piece of geometry. The only thing on it, on the central part, is one ID and on those small curbs, a second ID for different materials. And that's it. I imported this into Unreal. Here it is, and applied a texture. On the side curb, I just applied some concrete. I used a simple one with 3 textures from Megascans for simplicity. And here similarly from Megascans, just 3 textures with asphalt. That's it, I saved it. And now we can assign this piece of road to the entire spline. How do we do this? We select our road, choose the segments, click, and it highlights this entire green part. And here is the landscape spline meshes. Here it shows 0, we add a plus sign, and an index 0 appears here. We need to open it, and here we can insert our road. We clicked, and we see that it just flipped it. It's slightly in the wrong direction, but that's not a big deal. We go lower and choose the forward axis, like which axis the road goes forward on. For us, it's Y. We click, and that's it, the road. It is turned correctly, as you can see it is. Now, it goes nicely and smoothly. If the landscape slightly protrudes, then we have this feature here. When we select the control point, we have the mesh vertical offset here. We can shift our entire road slightly. Let's raise it by 5 centimeters upwards, and that's it. We've raised it. We have a nicely created, neat road. And since we have a curb, we raised those 5 centimeters, and it just covers the side here for us. And it definitely covers this side here. Either there will be grass, or we will fill it with some gravel, stones. So basically there are no problems. Here we have it. The road was created so easily, and likewise with all those settings that are here. The fall off side is about how much this slope, if we raise the road, how much it is. Now it's set to 10 meters, we can set it to 30 times 3000 and it will stretch. Well, it stretched a lot at 30,000, but set it to 3000. So that slope stretched 30 meters to the side, becoming smooth, like the left side. So you can adjust it to different sides. For example, here on the left side, we'll set it to 0.5. It will be smaller on that side and larger on this side, the right side. And, well, the settings, just click around to see. They are quite simple and basic here. Anyway, later on, everything needs to be adjusted to look nice. As they say, manually fine-tuned. This way, we easily create and edit the landscape. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. I look forward to all your questions and suggestions in the comments. See you next time.